Right, so next day we put the transmission in. We tried it that day. I was so disgusted I left it parked because we didn't have reverse still. Uh, we had a smoother shifting transmission, but we had no reverse. And we still had a neutral out problem. So we pulled the valve body. We went through every single valve. We pulled every single valve out, checked every valve, checked it for dragging or scraping or marks or wear, everything. We pulled all the valves out of the valve body. Took all the retainers out, looked at those, looked at all the springs. We tried to see if the springs were put in wrong, too stiff, the wrong spring. We tried to see if everything was put in to get together right, because this builder made a couple of mistakes. We wanted to make sure he didn't make any more mistakes that caused the problem. So we still had absolutely no reverse. So we jacked up the truck, still with no reverse. We jacked up the van with no reverse. We took one wheel, the passenger pulling wheel. We took it off the ground. We put it in reverse, and it was rolling forward ever so slowly. It didn't matter what the RPM tacked out
As if it was in drive.
It was rolling forward like it was going in drive. So I was pissed. So after sitting on it for a couple of, hours, sleeping on it, disgusted, getting ready to upload this video of it not working, I decided we're going to pull this sucker back out again. First, we're going to start with the valve body. So we did that. We got the valve body out. We pulled it out again. We pulled the servo, the Overdrive servo. We pulled the guts out. We air tested this piston. We got the piston to come out. When we stuck it here, one of these ports, piston flew off here, popped up. Then we heard the clutch pack in here. We went into those clutch packs. We found that those clutch packs were engaging, I think, on one of this port.
Yeah, they were.
Then we tried the next port somewhere over here.
And these engaged.
So we're like, what the fuck? So we went further, deeper into the transmission, and I pull out the sun gear shell. That's what they call this stupid thing. And I don't know, I took welding back in high school, and I noticed this nice pretty weld on here. And I was like, wait a minute, this is spinning free. But it's so smooth, it feels like a bearing. And me never going into an automatic this deep before, I wouldn't know any better. So as you can see,
that's not supposed to do that.
Everything's supposed to have a bearing. So why is this rotating without a bearing? It feels smooth. I mean, you wouldn't know the difference. You would think that was a bearing or something.
I thought it was.
Well, the weld is broken. Okay? So that's the reason we don't have fucking reverse. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And let me add that most of the guys on F-150 forums, I don't even leave comments on there. I don't even ask questions. I'm not even a member of that forum. But every time you type something in about this transmission online, you got some poor guy asking a question about this transmission. You can't help but to see that as one of the forums that come up. F-150 forum bullshit. And then you got some asshole builder who's a smart ass every single time. Well, you have better luck with YouTube than you do reading forums on that shit. Because you got dumb shit. Smart ass, arrogant people.
Where do we learn this from? It ain't supposed to move.
I learned this from welding and looking at this. And then I went back to double check with that Spanish guy. What was his name?
I think his name is Automatic Transmissions. Just like that.
Automatic Transmissions. He made like a 50-second video.
Very short video.
Very, very short. 50-second video. I could have swore the first time we pulled this sun gear out, this wasn't free spinning. Not at least this easy. Now maybe I didn't catch it because of that, or maybe it's because now the second time of taking this piece of shit apart is the charm. I don't know. But nevertheless, this is the reason we don't have reverse. So while we're here, we're going to replace this sun gears. It costs like $70-80. I don't know why it says 062003, and it looks like it's for a 470 whatever.
470 even. It's magnetic.
Yeah, I mean, look how weak that is. And you're just relying on that tiny weld right there to hold that shit. So there's got to be a riveted or an upgraded one that's thicker. So we're going to look for that. And while we're here, we're going to replace this piston. We should have replaced before, but we didn't. But it still checks good. We're still going to replace it, and we're going to look inside the pump. We're going to check that, and we're also going to buy a boost valve in the valve body. And then we'll show you how this shit goes back together once we get these parts in. But I just wanted to show what happens after you get disgusted. You can either give up and be forced to pay a builder again to possibly face mistakes like this, or you can go into it yourself. But I can say there's a lot of videos of this transmission on YouTube and different places, because this is obviously Ford's bad egg. This is Ford's fucking Mopar transmission. Okay? Okay, so we got our new Sunshell gear. This is the right one for the 2004 and up. 75E or 75W, whatever you want to call it. This accommodates the sensor. The sensor rod's about right here, about that far off. Here, yeah, we got this part. We got this part from Oregon Performance in Oregon, United States. Little problem with the shipping, wrong tracking number, etc. But all in all, they made it right. They sent it on time. It got here today. That was what was supposed to happen. So we found this for 70 bucks. Come with the bushings already in it. So, you know, thanks to Oregon.
We also have a part number right here I want to get real quick.
What part number?
Very small. It's right there. See the folks.
So 2004 and up, you know, this is what you got to get. If you have, for builders out there that are putting Sunshell gear, Sunshells in that are broken, you can't just use a steel Sunshell like this builder did. You can see that the date on the Sunshell, it's later in the video somewhere if you watch the whole video, but to do a quick cap, this is what the date is. 03. I mean,
before the change.
Before the change. So this sensor, which is the input sensor, is magnetic. So it can't read through this. And you can see where it was riding. And the new gear, Sunshell, is not magnetic. So it will read the little splines inside that are passing. So now the PCM can know when to activate the shift solenoids on this transmission. So that's one problem this builder did, and you know, it's pretty obvious that the previous owner of this vehicle drove it for about 20,000 miles with forward gears and no overdrive and erratic shifting. And I think the last straw was when this Sunshell gear broke and free spun like that.
No wonder it's weaker.
It's not supposed to do that. They sold the vehicle for $2,000. The vehicle's price, Blue Book, is $7,000, and its condition is excellent. So it might sell for more than that if we decided to sell it, but that's not what's going to happen here. It's my personal vehicle, or one of my personal vehicles. So here's that gear, Sunshell gear. I mean the Sun gear I was talking about here.
It's the right one.
This is the right gear. It's a little shorter than the 70W or the 70. So that's something that needs to be checked to make sure you have the 70, because it has to match the Sunshell gear itself. So you have to make sure of that. And here is the beefed up bearing that's a little thicker, and they made this gear shorter like I explained earlier, so they could accommodate this roller bearing on here that's a little stronger than the norm bearing that's put together. So then you put this together like this, Okay, so that's right. And it rolls on a sun shell, see? So there's no doubt we will have reverse now. And we will get a sensor readout to tell the solenoids when to come on and when to go off. Now we know that OD operates with both solenoids. It uses A and B, which are those dual pack solenoids. We did test those solenoids. We bench tested them the best we could. What we did was we hooked them up to a 12-volt battery. We took a hose and we put pressure on the hose to see if the valves would open and close, and they do. It's just a tricky situation. The solenoid valves are, you can reverse the polarity on them without hurting them. So they're real primitive. They're just a solenoid valve. They just open and close. That's all they do. And to bench test them, you just gotta play with positive and negative. And it's funny because you got 3 terminals there and 2 valves. One negative plays a role, and then switching between 2 positives at the same time might activate both valves at one time, or it might activate one, and then switching it might activate 2. So you have to play with it there to see if you can get both valves to open or close. But the valves are normally open with kind of a check ball in them. So that's something that if you want to try to come as close as you can to bench testing, you can off the vehicle. Just be careful you don't put an arc mark on the tabs that are used for the wiring harness connector. You don't want to scar those up too bad because you don't want failure in the future of those solenoid valves. But we tested all the solenoid valves. They're all reacting. They're all stopping and allowing flow of fluid when activated. That is the extent of the test we could bench test. So that is working. This is just something I got for the cruise control.
I got one more thing. It's the intermediate.
Yes, we did get the intermediate bonded piston in today. That came from somebody else, I think. Alright, so here's the intermediate bonded piston and the number.
70W, 75W, 70E.
Right. So we got a new intermediate piston because, intermediate clutch piston to go around the pump housing, because we felt there was a little bit of rubber there, and the builder that built it before put the damn retainer on backwards, so it was either letting this come out too far or not letting it come out at all, so it might have been spewing fluid past it. I don't know. For good measure, you're right. So we're going to replace this, and we're going to put this dot right here, this relief hole, check ball relief. We're going to put it at the 12 o'clock position, so at the top of the bell housing. See, with the particular retainer we have, we can only go 9, 3, or 12 because it's notched out for this. The way that the retainer ring fits inside there, and it's got a hump, and it has a hump here at the 3 and the 9. So, and there's a hump at the 12. So we don't want to put 3, 9. We want to put 12, straight up on the money. Not at the 1 o'clock position like the other builders. They're good advice and stuff, but
different retainers.
But different retainers. So we don't have the option to do 1 o'clock position on this particular model. So thanks to the Spanish builder guy out there for his videos, but we don't have that option because this is a 75 with a special retainer, or the 24 spring retainer, which has 8 springs, 8 springs, and 8 springs, coil springs, which is weird. But that's the way it is for us, and this is what calls for our model. So we'll pause the video, and when we get to building, we'll come back and put this thing together, or putting it back together, and hopefully we won't make any mistakes, so we don't have to take this thing out a 3rd time. This is the 2nd time this transit's been out. I have never pulled the guts inside of a transmission out, the internal guts, the clutches, etc., with the intent on fixing it and putting it back together. I pulled it out because, just to see what was going on, and really kicked it to the curb side and brought it to a trans shop. Well, this time I don't intend to do that. So it's a lot different when you're trying to put it back together and make it work right. So we'll get back to the video in a minute. We're fixing to put this back together. hopefully this is the last time. We don't have to take it back out a third time. These are the things you want to pay attention to. You want to make sure the snap ring right here that was installed is installed correctly. The last builder didn't do that. He had the snap ring covering up this hole. The snap ring went all the way to here, so I guess he put it either in backwards or he had it another way. It's on film when I took it apart. So you got that issue. You want to make sure that nothing's blocking this sensor hole right here coming through. Okay? Now the sensor's not in it right now. It's taken out. Look like there's little pieces of metal right. Not really. No, that's just marks where the sun shell gear stripped out from the weld and just left some like tiny pits in the case. Yeah, there's an example of the sensor coming through the hole. Okay? And like I said, that makes connection right here, but underneath the new sun shell gear. So let's assemble this and get this together. Try to put it in. I got this turned upside down on a bucket here so I can service it.
We gotta put our
Make sure all your bushings are pressed down. I mean, all your clutches are, your gear is set in all your clutches here.
Yeah, it's the
What clutch pack is this? I forgot.
that is the forward drum assembly, I think.
Is it? Or is this the reverse?
I think the reverse is inside this one.
Yeah,
that is
that's right.
Forward clutches.
Okay, so what I gotta do is pull this out. And I have to tighten a snap ring that I forgot to tighten. One of those shear care snap ring type deals. I didn't put it in. I just took it off to see if there was something wrong with it. Well, here, let's start with this shit right here. Sun shell. Let's get that in. Now everybody has a different way to assemble this thing. I'm not sure which way you want to use, but remember the bearings are kind of self-explanatory. They kind of go one way. They're notched. Okay. So we have our gear on there. That's good. That bushing's really not torn up and looks pretty good. I mean, there's some funny wear on it, but not too bad. Alright. Let's get this in the transmission. You know what? It might be easier to put the gear in first.
Put the sun shell around the gear, huh?
Yes. And make sure this bearing goes with it. So, let's make sure it goes with it now. Alright. Let's get that in there. Spin it till it goes in. Probably easier to do this if the tranny was sitting straight up. There we go. In place. Bearings in place. Remember, this bearing is the outer bearing, so we're going to put that right on there. Okay, sun shell gear. Shell. Our new one goes in. Non-magnetic for 2004 and up. Alright, so now we're working. Perfect. Good deal.
Ain't free spinning now.
Right. Next step, stick our bearing in there. It's good. Alright, now here's the thing that I wanted to take apart here. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and take this piece right here. Shove that in there. Alright, there we go. That's the center shaft, I guess.
Locked in, huh?
Yeah, look, see?
Ah, splined in, okay.
Right, it's all splines. Now, okay. Now you can see that clutches are seated down because that bearing This thing had pushed itself all the way down through the clutches because the bearing's seated right here. Now, I say maybe we could put this in next. What do you think?
I think so.
Let's try it. Alright, look, we got rubber washers here. We're gonna make sure they're in good shape, okay? And we got one back here too. Make sure that's in good shape. We also got a bearing here at rods. Make sure that's in good shape. Feels good. Don't see any problems with it. Let's see if we can get this in here properly. Alright. Yep.
Yeah, look at that sun gear finally turning.
Alright.
I mean, that sun shell.
The sun shell's finally working. That's great. Okay. Now, the pump rings. These are steel rings. They should be nice and spry, not stuck. They look good. Let's pull this off. Alright. Where that guy rods.
Yeah, there's another set of them on here, but they're good.
Yeah, I've checked those like 3 times already. Okay, I've pulled this snap ring. I've checked all these clutches, so we're good there.
Check that piston too.
Yes, I did. I use it. Put this shit on here. Alright.
Yeah, it's back on. We just need to.
Alright, now I put this snap ring in. This is like a curly Q snap ring. It's in 3 pieces. I think their idea was to put this ring on. This replaces a regular snap ring. And then you take this piece of sheet metal and you fold it over. This is from the last guy who folded it over. I mean, I guess he just used something to beat it over with. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use a flathead. But the concept is try to center it. Make sure that your snap ring is down all the way in its grooves. Like I said, your snap ring is like curled around 3 times because it's real thin. It replaces the thick snap ring. The idea, I guess, was to have this as kind of a hold down, and this is where the snap ring comes out. This is kind of one of those sure cure deals, an aftermarket kind of situation to fix this. Pause the video, get me a screwdriver. Let's get to this. I'm going to fold this over all the way around to prevent the snap ring from coming back off. I'll probably get something a little bit better than this to do it. Maybe I'll take a little socket and carefully tap it with a hammer to get it to tighten up on this snap ring. But you don't want to affect the way that this works. This servo, they call it, or one-way clutch. Let's just call it that. Or a rear bicycle sprocket, huh?
Everyone just keeps using that diode term.
Well, that's the technical name for it. We're not professional transmission builders, so we can use whatever name we want. Not even close. But I do know that we can go inside and troubleshoot someone else's problem. And like I said, I think the person who had this vehicle before drove it. I was told by the tranny shop. There's nothing wrong with this tranny. It's a computer issue. And I went on Carfax and I saw what transmission shop did this. And I talked to the previous owner. So they never had overdrive and they had erratic shifting because they had that major problem with, and it probably jumped in second gear for a brief moment and jumped right out because of the intermediate clutches being binded together. But I'm not sure. You know, I could have a little bit of what I'm saying a little backwards, but when they finally lost reverse because that sun shell gear broke, They were like, the hell with this shit. And it was, transmission was, I'm sure, out of warranty by then. And they were like, you know, sell this vehicle, get rid of it, move on. So that's what they did. So I guess I could say thanks, but no thanks to the tranny shop who put all these things in wrong, or put the wrong parts in as well, because it's my gain. But the rest of the transmission seals and all were put in correctly. I mean, there was no damage on them, so they knew what they were doing as far as that goes, but they did not know, I guess, the difference between a 70 and a 75, because they didn't accommodate that sensor twice. Wrong sun shell gear, couldn't read through it. Like I said again, the ring was in the way, that again. And they let it leave the shop like that, and that's a problem. I mean, if you're going to spend $3 grand to have a transmission rebuilt, don't you think you ought to be a little concerned about that? Anyway, we'll come back after we get this down, show you guys what to do next. Alright, that's good. So we did the best we could with getting our mechanical diode retaining spring in place. Just going to try to align these clutches a little bit. Make sure we got these, what is this, three clutches looks like. For the reverse, 3 clutches for reverse. Alright, there's 3 of them, see, 3 are lined up. I'm going to try to get them on the end of that shaft, and then we're going to try to put this in place, see if we can do it. Then we got to put that overdrive band on, and then we got to stick that heavy ass servo.
The pain in the ass.
Alright, let's see if I can do this. On the mechanical diode. That is not the best looking mechanical diode retainer spring, but that's the SureCure thing, I think. They might make other brands, but I know that in their little kit comes that, but I am not a salesman for that company, because when I looked up the prices of the SureCure kit, they were $129, I believe.
Pretty good price.
Yeah, it's a good price. $129 for the SureCure kit. That wasn't too bad. Now you can see my ears here are not falling into my, whatchamacallit, into my drum yet. That means that I'm a clutch out or 2, or I think that would be 1 clutch. So 1 clutch is not lining up. For my gear here. Yep. My last clutch spun on me a little bit. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this for professionals, but I am not a professional by a long shot. I'm just a guy trying to save some money and avoid the politics of a tranny shop saying, it doesn't work, it means something else is wrong. Because the last thing I want to do is be told that on this controversial model here that uses the 75E. And this weird retainer that they probably don't use very often, because somebody puts it in backwards and then causes all these other problems and puts this drum on wrong. I mean, puts the wrong sun gear housing shell. Okay, there's 1 clutch. Come on, son of a bitch. Well, I'll never get it lined up now. I went too far out of whack. Okay. Alright, so you know, if you got all these 3 clutches in, which took a minute, I could have put this thing together as one piece and shoved it in, but I did it this way because I wanted to make sure everything was seated in the back first. You'll notice that with the shaft held straight, if the transmission's on its side, that it's in about, it's sunk in about 1/8 of an inch. if the teeth are sunken on the sunshell gear right there, about 1/8 of an inch past the bell or so, 1/16 to 1/8, you're good. But if it's sitting flush even with it, no, you got one more clutch to go. Okay? Alright, that's for reassembly. I think that's probably the hardest part of putting this shit back together. Just that. Nothing else. Nothing crazy. Like I thought would be that. And that servo. That servo installation is a bitch. I had something in here to hold this right. Okay, it's still going back in like it's supposed to. I usually put something to hold that, but you know what? I'm just going to let it sit like that. The bottom of the teeth of the clutch should hold it in place even.
Now this thing next.
Reverse band, overdrive band, sorry. The way I knew the way that it went was simple. See that wide worn out spot there? That usually went to that bigger dial pin down there. You see that little tit mark right there? That was from the tit on that servo pin right there. So that's the way I was able to determine which way this band was originally spinning. And since this band's good, we're going to reuse it. We got plenty of fiber material, clutch material left on here. So we're going to use this band this way. Okay, so first I'm going to put it on the bottom notch. When you're first putting this together, if you're messing around with a lot of cars and stuff and messing around with internal engine parts, you first go to put this thing together, you're like, man, the way that this thing's built, so some of these parts in here are designed to fit together. You think to yourself, man, this is pretty shitty design. I mean, you're just putting a shoe brake inside of a transmission. They're just kind of sitting there loose and floppy. So you really doubt whether or not this thing's going to work and how it ever did. But it does, I guess. Or at least it's supposed to. Alright, I just wanted to make sure the spring was seated all the way. Very lightly.
It's on the overdrive band, that's good.
The overdrive band still in place.
Oh yes.
You gotta make sure that tit is on the overdrive band there. Alright.
No, now would be a good test for. I can push down on it with that socket and you can see if...
What socket? This one?
Yeah, see if it's applying. Oh yeah, it's applying. Yep, it ties up that hole.
Alright. And look, and that's a good way to seat your snap ring. The socket on there. Push down. And let it go fast. And that snap ring is seated well. No special tool required. Just a little ass strength, a little strength. Put your ass into it, put your backbone into it, whatever. That didn't sound right. That might be for those other transmission builders. Those universal transmission builders that support other types of training stuff. Alright, so what are we doing now?
We got our bonded piston.
What's that?
Alright, they check those rings, they're pretty
A
good.
little socket touching, okay. I can see that they all move and they're all spry. Those need to be tight and in good shape. Okay. Now, bonded piston. As you can see, I had the prior one, the one that I need to replace, installed already at the 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock would be right here on the side of this hole, but directly in line with the bolt hole. And I told you the reason why that has to happen on the last video, or incorporated in this video. It's because when this retaining, the 24 spring retaining ring spring, this is 2007 model retaining spring. This is how it looks, man. And it really only goes one way. So At the top of the bell housing here, this spring is being held.
Top, it's upside down.
I know it's upside down. The top is the bottom, but you see that groove? It's notched out for that. And that's how it goes. So the other guy had it on backwards. I know I said that many times that I can't get over that. Now, the way that this goes on here, to accommodate this relief, this check ball relief in that piston is like that, see? So like I said, it can either go at this position, which is really not a 12 o'clock. That's really like a 9 o'clock, or 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. This is more like a, what, 8 and...
Yeah, well, like a 8 and 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 8 and 5. I mean, that's not right. So you really only got one choice. Put it at the 12 o'clock position, alright? And this is a forward part, so this is no bullshit. Let me get this out. Alright. So there.
As soon as you took it out, just decompress it. Glue it in there still.
I've already given the part number for this thing.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure they're the same. They look the same. This one's got a lip. This lip is kind of shaved down. We were losing pressure probably right there. Either that or this is going to mold form to that, but this is staying that way.
Yeah,
and remember, this is where I found a lot of that rubber. This is because the dumbass before installed, the real builder, installed this thing upside down like that. He thought it went there. I don't know how he got that from that, but whatever. So let me lubricate this a little bit and get this thing on. And hopefully this is the last time we have any Caitlyn Jenner problems with the internals here. This poor thing was confused. It didn't know what it wanted to do. Didn't know.
Yeah, I imagine both sides of that seal have to be good for both.
They do.
Yeah.
See, and that's the hole, and then here's the relief up here. This is, I guess that's the inlet. I don't know.
It is. I think.
That's the inlet, and then so the.
Remember the guy said if you install it like that, you will have a poor 1 to 2 upshift. It'll take forever to shift from first to second.
Well.
Because, you know, fluid will be escaping from there.
We're not gonna have that problem.
Nope.
Fuck, if I can get this sumbitch on.
Tight?
Very.
It's probably good.
Don't know if it's good or bad. Much tighter than the other one. Son of a bitch. Okay, so you want to make sure you shave half the rubber off when you put it on, so it doesn't seal anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
We'll probably save this part and put it in the box just in case.
In case of what? I'm not taking this shit out no more. Billy's transmission shop. No offense to Billy out there.
Wherever he is.
Whoever that is going to be putting a new one in for me. If I can't do this myself, right, the first time, and I refuse to say no to this, to give up on it, because that's just a massive blow to self-esteem. Okay, so here's the ring. Alright, so what's next? Gasket.
Yep. Our gasket.
Tranny needs to be assembled. Should I pick this tranny up and assemble it, or what?
We should probably. I could hold it up while you assemble the rest of it. I got some towels over there.
Alright, well, hang on a minute. Let's cut the video for a minute and get this thing set up right.
Wait, hold on. Our intermediate clutches.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You know, I wasn't gonna actually leave that out the video or nothing, but you can see how easy it is to like leave something else and make a mistake. So maybe I'm not gonna be so hard on that other, I say other builder, the professional transmission builder. But for not honoring the warranty and calling this thing a computer issue, is an asinine thing to do because we had a donor vehicle for this, and we swapped computers, and the computer works just fucking fine. So that pisses me off. All right, stop. All right, so we've already been through this valve body almost twice now.
Second time we went completely through it.
Completely through it. It took every single valve out. Probably said that earlier in the video or later in the video, depending on how we configure this video. And I'm repeating myself a lot in case we cut the video a lot. Because it's going to be like 4 or 5 hours of video for somebody who wants to do this themselves. So we're going to put the valve body on because we don't want to
Line up there.
get too much dirt, grit, and sand. Now, here's the thing. You got to make sure everybody forgets to do this. Not everybody, but some people. Right there. Okay? There. Now, valve body's lined up. Holes are lined up. Gaskets are lined up. Remember, put your critical things on first so you don't forget. I think this goes something in the
Just like that,
ballpark
I
like
remember.
that.
Yep.
And that holds down your doodad. These have been tested, like I said, on a bench.
Even that, yeah, even that one.
That's overdrive, right?
Yeah, at the lockup.
Okay.
And lockup's been tested and it clicks.
Right.
And it holds air pressure whenever it's locked up. Whenever it's closed.
Correct. Now, where's the clip for this? Here we go. Our clip for this gets a long bolt, right?
It goes through that case? Yes, it does. It all depends on whether or not it's going through the plate or just the valve body itself.
Alright, so here's short and long, see? I mean, you can't really screw that up, right?
They're not Toyota, so they only have 2 sizes. Not 8.
Right.
Like 8 sizes.
Okay. Like I said before, if you come out with extra bolts, no big deal. Just throw them out in the yard. Don't tell nobody. Alright. Nobody wants to see this shit, so we'll get all these long ones in. And then we'll come back. Alright, so we decided to play a thing, go by the rules, some of this. Not the sequence, but really just from in to out. And then down on the edge, all the way down. And we decided to set our torque wrench to 8.5 foot-pounds, which was converted over from inch pounds. It's supposed to be 8.1 inch pounds.
But
8.5 won't hurt it.
that's foot-pounds. Inch pounds was like 98, I think.
Yeah, we're not going to try to play around with inch pounds. We have a torque wrench that does foot-pounds. So we just did a quick conversion, and I'm just going back over them to make sure that they're 8.5. So we decided to play by the rules a little bit here. These were some of the first ones we tightened right here in this area, and then we ventured out this way, then we ventured out this way, and we ventured out this way. What you don't want to do is tighten 2 opposite ends and then go in the center because you might bow it. Bow the aluminum.
Stop that one real quick.
Alright, that's it. I think they're all done. You can cut video. We'll put the pan and filter and shit on, and then turn this thing on its face, on its nose. So we got the pan on, and now we're gonna throw in the intermediate clutches, the big clutches, and pressure plates, whatever. Alright, so we got a pressure plate. That is not the way it goes. But that does go down. You see that 75W?
Yeah, inch plate.
Alright. There's the inch plate. Now that burn mark's from the idiot who installed the whatchamacallit wrong.
The old one.
Uh,
There we go. That looks like
that
a
looks
bundle.
right.
Yep. Move a tiny bit. Should fall right in. Yep. There we go.
Alright. There we go. And clutch. Fiber. These fibers I replaced. I bought these for $2 each at Whatever It Takes Transmissions.
Apparently that's where we were able to locate that retainer too.
Yeah, the retainer was nowhere now. I can't do nothing about these steels because I don't have any. They don't seem to be warped, just discolored. I hope that won't be a problem in the future.
Well, the cool thing is this is the intermediate. That's second gear, I think.
Yeah, but it also turns the whole drive too.
Yeah.
Alright. So hopefully that won't be a problem. That's the only thing controversial in this transmission right now when we're putting it back together.
Yeah, everything else is great tip-top shape. Verified.
Verified by us.
Yeah.
But by everybody else's helpful videos on YouTube. I appreciate it, guys. Don't think I'm knocking you if I mock you a little bit. But this here was a real basket case. Somebody installed a lot of shit wrong. And the wrong parts.
Those videos got us through the information.
Yeah, they did. They helped a lot. You see, I'm doing this without a manual. Okay. So that's the side that was riding. Okay. Alright. That's the tail shaft. So when I put the pump in, I've already been through the pump.
Anything else? Nope. We got our bolt right there.
Okay, let's see how this goes. Let's put this on right. Like that.
Lined up.
Alright. And our pump. I don't like how our gasket bows up like that, but there's nothing I can do about it. Alright. Earlier, just for good measure, we dropped some cigarette ashes in there. I don't think that'll be a problem. But I did. Okay. These three go at the top. These go at the bottom. Remember, this bolt hole lines up with the center rib, casting rib. Okay.
You want that wooden dowel?
What, to tap it in?
Yep.
No, I was thinking this time I'll use my impact to just kind of get it down a little bit with like 2 bolts. Hold it there.
Alright.
Maybe 3. I'll do it in a try shape. Here and here. What is this, 10 mil?
10 millimeter.
Okay. This is on mode 1?
Should be.
Yeah, okay. Now remember, I got the tail. The tail's picking us up a little bit.
Might need to pick up the train a bit while you do that, huh?
Well, I might want to lay it on the ground. Gaskets lining up in the gasket holes. They're not rippled or nothing. They look good to me.
Yeah, they do here too.
Alright, let's lay it down on its belly. Finish up what we're doing. Ready?
Yeah.
Alright. Alright, let's get the rest of our bolts in and then we'll come back when we're torquing. Alright, so we got all our bolts in here. We're going to go down to 17 foot-pounds. Calls for 16, but we're going to do 17. Pull the tranny back. This was 16
Yes.
foot-pounds.
Yep.
What'd you look it up at?
According to a form. Someone says straight from their Ford service manual.
Yeah, you believe that shit? Might be laughing at us.
I remember someone one time said 20. I was looking at a chart that said 20, so I mean, it's between 16 and 20.
Well, I don't think we want this shit vibrating out on us, do we?
Nope.
Alright. I think that's good. We'll get the torque converter in here.
Yeah.
Stick it on a creeper. Put it on the jack. Get ready to get in. Right?
Yeah.
Alright. One more thing, fellas. Don't forget about your sensor. Your sensors. Okay, I bought one of these from stupid auto parts store. And I know they're all Chinese shit, so that's the one we bought. I'm going to use the Ford factory one. This is the rear. The small one is the rear.
Only one way to practically go.
Right. Just check your O-rings on it. I mean,
We bought that because we had a PCM code for input speed shaft sensor.
yeah, unbeknownst to me, it's because that dildo head builder put that in.
Wrong sun gear shell.
Wrong sun gear shell plus, you know, non-magnetic. I mean, magnetic plus it. Some bitch had it was broken, but it feels like a bearing. So you wouldn't know if you don't know about transmissions.
According to a Rebuilder's magazine, they're recovering the update between a 75 and 70, 04 and up, and 03 and below. And they said if you use the wrong shell gear, wrong sun gear shell, you will have that code.
Yeah, well, we had that code because we got shavings directly on that whatchamacallit. So let's go ahead and get that. That Ford factory sensor right here. Here's the original sensor. It's not auto parts bullshit. It only threw the code because it had debris right here that swung off from here onto here.
Lovely.
Alright. So anybody asks, can these sensors be mixed up? Not really. You can't really mix them up. The plates only go one way.
Holes are different.
Holes are different, probably diameters. All that. So you can't mix these input and output sensors up. So essentially, this sensor wasn't reading, which made the transmission shop who built this tranny, which is the factory case to the vehicle, not warranty this transmission, claiming that it was a Ford PCM problem because they put this wrong shell in, building it as a 70 instead of a 75 or an early model 75. No, they didn't have an early model 75 with a steel shell like this, I don't think.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
75 was updated in 04, and that's when all the new parts came out.
Alright, so this was an intentional idiot thing to do. So here we go.
Let's get this
We're together. I got to put the torque converter in, and then we'll get ready to go in. Alright. Alright, so our torque converter's back in. It was 2 clicks. 1, 2. Carefully. 1, 2. You know it's all the way in because you got 1/2 inch to an inch to 3/4 of an inch between stud and lip. If you were only 1 click in, your studs would still be out here, almost flush with the bell housing. That's when you know you don't have it in the second click. When you go to put it on the vehicle, you'll have a big fucking problem trying to get these holes to line up inside the flywheel. So that's something you want to make sure you get in. And the torque converter will pretty much stay in. You don't really need no special fucking bullshit clamp or anything to hold this thing in. I know some people feel comfortable with that, but it's not necessary. I mean, this is the second time this transmission's been out for us because of something we missed. So, you know, we'll get it. Anyway. Alright, so the Merc V, the Merc 5, tranny fluid. It's a pain in the ass to get your hands on a large quantity of it, unless you want to pay $70, $80 to get 12 to 14 quarts. I think this tranny holds about 13 quarts, roughly.
14.
14? Okay.
14.
We're going to strain the fluid that we have. We've already bought 7 new quarts. We added it to our last time. We played around with this. We strained it before. So we're going to try to save some money with straining some fluid. I know this is not preferred amongst builders, but neither is putting it in the wrong sunshell gear. So shut your mouths. We're going to try to find the best way to strain fluid, and we're going to use, obviously not a coffee filter, because that'll take about 6 months. So we got some paint strainers here. This is made for going through your paint gun without screwing up your nozzle. Then it should suffice for a transmission. Now, as you can see, this fluid really isn't that burnt. Some of it's a little on the dark side. That was mainly around the converter area. So we're going to strain it through doubled up paint strainers. So this is 2 paint strainers and a clean gas can, 5-gallon gas can, and this is the oil that we've poured out before out of our swimming pool, our kids' swimming pool. So
That's how red it is right there. It's a darker red, but not too much.
it's not burnt. There's no burn smell at all in it.
Actually, the camera doesn't really reflect the bright red that it is.
It looks too dark on camera.
Yeah, but it's not because of the light.
Alright, so as you can see, we're straining fluid here, and it doesn't take 6 months to do it. Alright, so this is how you strain it the best you can. If you're going to use used fluid. My recommendation is, if you got a brand new transmission that's freshly rebuilt and you got a warranty on it, do not do this. Just go ahead and buy new fluid. Good luck at a retail store finding a big enough container of it, because I haven't found this in a gallon size yet.
Try searching it on the internet, you're not going to find it either, hardly.
That's because this is supposed to be considered a lifetime or 100,000 mile fluid, which in harsh idle conditions, which I do a lot of, only 30 or 40,000 miles, which is right about where you would change your fluid anyway. So I think this is really just a marketing scheme. I don't really consider this fluid to be any better than any other fluid, but this is the recommended fluid, so we're using Merc 5 strained. Alright, okay. This is what we come up with after we did the strain. Some metal particles, not many. A couple of bugs and some other grass and bullshit. Anything that would stop up a valve body or a small orifice. We got that out. So paint strainers do work, and they're good. So, alright. Start filling our transmission up with the fluid that we had before. We're using this 1 quart container. That's a quart. We're going to put about, let's say, how many does this hold?
13.9, that's 14.
Okay, so we figured the torque converter's got some in it, so does the trans cooler. So let's start with 10 quarts, right?
Yeah, that's a good start.
Alright, come fill the top of the tranny in. So you can see it's not another one, it's the one that we screwed with. Okay, there it is. We hooked it up, tighten the bell housing bolts, put the starter on. It's the same one we had out. We'd like to show the after effects on whether shit works or it doesn't. The last time we put it in, it didn't work. It did the same thing. At least we knew we could take it apart and put it back together and have the same results and nothing else happened. So we were successful at that. So here, pause the video, start pouring me my oil. I'll go 10 quarts. You're good. So we're at 12 and a half right now. We're going to gonna be a half. I don't want to overfill this thing. All right, we're trying to take it for a ride down the road. It's 12.5 quarts. We don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know if it's gonna blow up or whatever. So we stuck the doghouse on just in case the bell housing flies apart in our face. We're in first. Second.
It drive, that's surprising.
I don't think I've ever felt second.
It's a third?
I think so.
Downshifted.
No. I got the overdrive on. I want to see if it goes into overdrive. See, it used to neutral out in overdrive. Watch the tachometer. We're at 50 miles an hour. I think it just fucking locked up.
Did?
I think overdrive's working, dude.
Give it a little throttle? It is. Well, it just downshifted. It did. It just locked up.
It just locked up at 55.
Man, that's awesome.
Dude,
What the fuck was wrong with it?
let's turn OD off. Yep, OD off. It downshifted, watch the tack. OD on, ready? Tack dropped.
But it's still pulling.
Still pulling nice. Keeping its speed. I'm varying on the throttle because I'm on a 2-lane highway.
Dude, what do you think it was?
I don't know, but the air vent's blowing in the phone. Alright. I think it's working.
Is it those speed sensors?
Fucking speed sensor. Wrong sunshell gear. Wrong broken sunshell gear, and the snap ring was in the wrong position, and the expert, and I should say the name of the fucking grade 8 company that whoever built this works for. I should say it, but I don't want to. Anyway, if you're out there and you know you built hundreds of these transmissions and you built it like a 70 W and it was not like a 75, thank you so much for the fucking $2,000 purchase that I just got. And shame on you for not taking the time to research how to build a 75
As opposed to a 70.
as opposed to a 70, and you should have looked up how to put that retainer spring ring.
They got manuals for that.
Yeah, you should have taken the time to do that. Now, one final test before I brag too much more is the capability of downshift, which it did not do before.
Shifted up.
It never downshifted. It neutraled out when you went to passing gear.
It just downshifted. Overdrive. It just went to overdrive.
No, now it went in overdrive. 2.5 at 70. Alright. Thank you.
So it was a combination of all those, huh? That's it.
Well, it just goes to show if you don't know how to do transmissions, fuck it, learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Because we did this for what, 100 and something bucks?
Yes.
100 and something bucks. And even if it lasts 2 weeks, we still got transportation out of the deal.
Yeah.
Which I think it'll last longer than that, but who knows. And we'll run it a couple of hours and then check the fluid level.
Tell you what, the other van we got, remember when the transmission went out on that?
What, the R4100?
The 4R100?
The 4R100, yeah.
You know,
They got us for $3,400 for that.
That's how much it cost for a quote-unquote rebuild.
And they rebuilt it in 1 day.
Rebuilt it in 1 day.
You know what they did? They felt so sore that they screwed me so bad that they gave me a new torque converter. I appreciate that, but all they did was tighten, I think, one plug that comes out of the drain pan.
There's another Spanish guy.
It comes
guy.
out of the valve body, and you lose all forward gears, and that was my symptoms of my 4R100. I wish I would have had the time to do that, like I just did this one. Well, it comes around, goes around. Looks like I got my money back on this one.
Saved $3,000.
Yeah, so now if I wanted to turn around and sell this vehicle after a month or two and it continues to run, hey, I got a $7,000 sale. I mean, that's Blue Book. Sometimes these vehicles sell for a little more, depending.
People selling for more than Blue Book these
Even
days.
if I got 6,000, even if I got 5 or 4,000, I made a $2,000 profit.
That's great, man. Finally.
Yep. All right. Shows what you can do. If you're not intimidated.
Yeah. That's the only thanks we can give to all the other people out there.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's video on YouTube regarding this transmission. The 75E for electronic throttle. Ford, all you guys that made videos, I appreciate it. Dating all the way back to what, 2012?
Pretty much, yeah. 2011, 2012.
Yeah. So I appreciate all that information out there. All right. Signing off to the next project.